Okay, welcome everybody. I'm Michelle Guiliano. I'm one of the co-founders of SALT Consulting and Communications. I work together with Denise Nickerson. We are co-founders and community managers. We're TEDx speakers, and we are bringing this brand new group to you live because you are curious about coaching. You're curious about this industry as coaches yourselves or as learning and development specialists. Maybe you're an inclusion expert, maybe you're in human resources. And maybe you're a line manager or a leader, or maybe you're an artist or an activator, somebody who is working independently in the sciences, a researcher, a thought leader, an author. We work with talented professionals, Olympic athletes, and we tend to attract these people because they seek edge. They're looking for excellence. And they're seeking mastery in this. And we wanted to bring to you this story topic today that really is born from our own personal struggles over this period of time that all of us have lived, though we've all lived differently through the COVID-19 crisis. And I just want to take you back to a little moment in SALT's history, back in the very, very end of 2020 and the very beginning of 2021. Denise came very close to losing her life, and she managed to get saved and be revitalized, but left with a chronic illness brought on by COVID-19. 7 days after that, I lost my own mother, and it was just a really difficult time. Denise was not home from the hospital. She was struggling, and my mother had passed in the middle of COVID we were able to be by her side, but without the kind of care and contact and connection that you'd love to have. And why am I bringing out this sort of sad time is because very recently we've come to expect or get used to or accustomed even to some of the changes that seem light and simple, like someone getting sick or somebody feeling a setback or somebody having a burnout. But we shouldn't be taking these things light. We shouldn't be just expecting them, but we should, as leaders, be getting prepared. And so this talk is a little bit coming from our own life, living, breathing, small business environment. And it's appropriate if you are leading a large organization, because we all know what it's like to pick up the slack for a colleague who, for whatever reason, has had to step out of the workforce in order to recover or care for themselves or enter into a caregiving role for someone else. We also know, those of us who do make changes in our organization to welcome all different kinds of diverse candidates, how important it can be to recognize somebody's brilliance, even when they are a 60% contributor to the organization, and making those possibilities available to anyone who wants to enter your organization. All right, so without delay, I wanted to get right into the tips and tricks, because whether it's a medical leave situation like I'm facing right now with Denise still on medical leave, she's one of the most resilient, creative, and talented people I know. She preps me for each one of these talks. Many of her words come out of my mouth as I get to sit with you and meet you in this way as we start to build relationship and rapport with one another. So the first thing that we want you to know is that you can team, right? You can build a team. You can take a look at my TEDx talk on teaming through personal crisis. But it's not something that you do only when you need to. It's a lifelong mission and ambition to be constantly teaming, reinforcing your relationships that are powerful or dynamic or fun or creative, and investing that time and energy, showing up for someone else in their crisis or in their time of need, or when they've lost somebody, or when their small business is strapped. What kind of collab can you create to help them further along? How can you step up or step in for that crowdfunding campaign to further someone? So what we do with team is really about thinking about, how can I strengthen my relationships with others? And so many of us have worked in a toxic work environment, right? Where it's exactly the opposite. Instead of having somebody support you or lift you up or make you feel, like you're part of an incredible opportunity that goes faster because of the team members involved and everybody knowing their roles and responsibilities, some of us are working in exactly the opposite kind of environment, where there's actually, instead of somebody having your back, they're backstabbing you, right? They're withdrawing your research or taking credit for stuff that you did. And so defining and teaming is your first line of defense to to tackle unexpected change. The second thing that we want you to know about is that your communications really matter, right? We're a communication strategy company. We work with senior leaders and executives. We are ghostwriters for various talks, but mostly we go offsite with a leadership team to work on core messaging and how do we get that through to internal organizations as in sort of internal PR. How do we make sure stakeholders understand that? And when we're going through change, we want to be clear about our own communications with ourselves, with our team, with our stakeholders. What do people need to expect of me and my organization now? And what can I reasonably expect of myself, right? When you're a small business team like me and Denise, when Denise was out of work in order to recover back in 2021, and she was going to be out for months, I needed to revamp and rethink about how we approach business and what were my core strengths, what were her core strengths. I needed to dabble in her space and keep things going and keep things alive. And this really brings us a little bit to part two, but on this expectation setting, being clear with yourself so that you have the compassion, the self-compassion that so many talented people really neglect. It's part of becoming an achiever that we kind of whip ourselves a little bit. And we want you to also master this art of fulfillment and be proud of yourself and happy and celebrate your successes and accomplishments. So recognizing that you are not a robot, none of us are, and that there really is only so many hours in a day for you to do all that achieving and do all that beingness and get to, live your life in the manner that you define as optimal or best. So expectation setting with yourself and your key stakeholders, having clear communications about the problem that you're facing, about what's going on with the organization, about who really needs to know and how you're going to backfill that initiative. That's really, really pivotal to your success when facing crisis. All right, the third thing that we want you to think about a little bit is your prioritizations, right? Your priorities. And one of the fastest paths, especially in a crisis, you've probably all heard about it before, but the Eisenhower matrix is one of the quickest ways to sort of determine what is important, what is urgent. We don't want you just putting out fires when you're going through crisis if you have base safety, right? If you have base safety, physical safety, emotional safety, if you have base safety, then we do want you to work on important things too. So for those who don't know, the Eisenhower matrix is basically you draw a quadrant, you give yourself 4 boxes, and in one of them you put the word urgent, another one you put not urgent, you put important, you put not important. And basically those things that are not urgent and not important, you don't have the time, energy, bandwidth, emotional leverage over yourself or anyone else to really perform optimally in those other quadrants when the sands are shifting quickly. So quickly defining what is now urgent, what is now important, and your schedule for when you're going to go back over that again with yourself or with your team, so that everybody kind of knows, okay, this is what we've decided for now, but we're in a crisis and we're going to reevaluate that in this way and on this date and time. And it could be 2 hours from now, depending on the circumstances that you're facing. So focusing on what is important and what is urgent. And I just want to give an example from a corporate client because they are masters of strategic procurement of all things. Procurement is how we procure the natural resources or the goods and services that we need in order to run a big business. And in this case, they are in procurement coaching their whole team on the importance of relationship management at the regional level, even though they're a huge multinational company. And when supply chain issues hit them, like it did everybody else, from the Olympics and the Suez Canal to current time with war in Ukraine, when supply chains issue hit, they had a process in place. They had the agility to take a look at what are the core materials responsible for, let's say, 70% of what we manufacture and produce. What do we absolutely have to procure in order to keep most of our business units, most of our products alive and thriving, and most of our clients happy? And in this way, being strategic in procurement can be a life-saving thread that is often overlooked in businesses by senior leadership. And I just want to give that example because I think large organizations are often given the excuse of, oh, we're not nimble, or we're not agile, or we can't make change, or it's too many signatures to sign on the dotted line and make a change. And I just want to say that very good leadership can happen anywhere in the organization if you know your role and your set of responsibilities, and you set a vision and you start onboarding people into that vision. We really invite you to do that with priority setting when you're going through a crisis, a little bit like triage in the nursing community. All right, or in the medical community, I should say. Um, the fourth area that I want you to think about, Denise and I were thinking about just how many opportunities have opened up for us when they absolutely had to. So, you know, it's funny on a marketing, marketers will tell you how important it is to have your niche and how important it is to just be awesome at that and known for that one little thing. We have a lot of space for nuance and breadth and scope, and I can tell you that when Denise had to step out, I had to focus on what are my core strengths, my core strengths, in order to further fuel our business. And despite all these setbacks, I'm really proud. We are really proud to say that our business has thrived. We were set up digitally. We were set up. Leaders realized that that empathetic communications and being able to touch people's hearts and minds really mattered, and it mattered to their ability to lead and to the impact their organization could have, and how quickly they could get people back in who had suffered a burnout or who had lost a loved one during this crisis or who had to flee war or crisis or climate related events, which have really happened for many people. So I know that the problems that Denise and I have experienced in our business with her this summer, she needed life-saving surgery. So in the last 2 years, she has had real critical issues and she's in recovery again right now. I wish for you that level of teaming, right? I wish for you somebody who would step in and support you with the kind of loving attention and kindness and care that Denise's family has provided me, and that I and my family are able to provide her and hers. It just makes a world of a difference, and it's worth spending time considering your recruitment strategy on. But this fourth bullet is about innovation. When you have to change, an innovation space opens up and you realize, oh, maybe there's an app for that, or maybe there is a way that I can delegate this thing or automate this thing. So I do want you to think about 3 words that when crisis hits, there's an opportunity. You can even get excited for it because it's bound to happen, where you're going to grow in empathy. As you step in to backfill your teammate or to look after the needs of the organization, as you step up and step in and take over someone else's responsibilities, the worst thing that's going to happen, honestly, is you're going to learn something about their role, their function, how they've done things before, what the expectations are, and that will grow your compassion, not only for them, but for the knowledge it takes, the work it takes. And of course, then once you get a little accustomed to it, you're going to have your own flair for how you're going to do that role or function or task that out. And so the 3 words to keep in mind are innovation, automation, and delegation, right? What could be innovated? What could be made more efficient through automation? And how can I better grow in leadership by elevating others through wise delegation? So these are just really good questions to ask yourself when you're thinking about how can I streamline a process? How can I lighten my load? How can we rethink how we're doing things today? Do we need to keep doing it that way? If there's a legacy piece of software in our organization that we truly don't need anymore, what could we be doing instead? If there's no reason to keep it, what would we gain by cutting it, right? Just quality questions help us to enter that innovation space with a lot less fear and turmoil and a lot more action mindset and readiness to engage with the possibilities, right? With true possibilities. All right. The last bullet that we want you to think about a little bit is self-care. And self-care is everything that you do to care for yourself. And talented professionals really don't always manage this unless they're right before their big event, right? Then they're like, oh, I better sleep the night before. I'm supposed to go race an Ironman, right? Then they take a look at their sleep habits or the couple of months before. Talented professionals sometimes look out for everyone else first and neglect self-care to their detriment and to the detriment of their teams. So we really want to impart to you that self-care is responsible leadership. That when you're getting your sleep, you're not only sleeping for yourself, you're sleeping for the team. You're sleeping for that person that you've had to backfill or step in for. And so keeping your important self-care regimes alive. For us, whether it's a self-coaching process like what we teach with the integrity system, whether it's going to the gym and keeping your regular walking habit with a walking buddy, whether it's your mindfulness or your gratitude practice or your yoga, or your journaling, right? Your commitment to journal and capture the knowledge management for you, your organization for that week, right? What did we learn? What did we want? What do we know now to avoid in the future? What was I able to delegate? Well, how are the results of that going, right? So self-coaching is that process of asking yourself quality questions and listening to your own answers. We think that you have the answers to most of the problems and pain that you may be facing in your life, as well as the opportunities or the decisions or the crossroads. It's just a question of, could I ask a higher quality question of myself, or a question at the right time and place in order to get what I want? All right, those are the things. Teaming to get out of crisis, managing your communications and your expectation setting with others, and especially with yourself. You are not a robot, and you can, sorry, a robot. You can do better at setting priorities that really matter and that don't just keep you running from fire to fire to fire, but that have you on a strategic course that you trust, that is going to protect, as that business case example of the multinational, that can protect 70% of your business or more, even though you're going through hard times. And this is just a very short bullet. We can work when it's hard, right? There are laws that if you are signed off of work and you're not supposed to work, absolutely don't go to work. Take your needed rest and get the rest you need. But there's this gray area when you're dealing with really talented people and their identity is tied up in that thing they do. Then finding 10%, 20%, 30% ways for them to get to explore their readiness to be doing that, their brilliance, their genius, and their ability to continue to contribute, even though they are mostly resting, recovering, and it can psychologically restore them to themselves faster. So legal is one thing, but then there's this emotional, psychological side that is another thing, and it is a gray zone, leaders. It is a gray zone. So team communications, do your Eisenhower matrix and validate your priorities, communicate those really well with your stakeholders and with your team. Allow yourself the freedom and the space to get in that innovation space, to reimagine, recreate, re-innovate, rethink how you work and how you do those three things: the innovation, the automation, and the delegation, so that you can grow in your leadership and practice the self-care, whether it's hydration and sleeping and basic needs, which, let's never forget, those basic needs are fundamental building blocks. Or whether it's the things that you know are going to propel you forward faster, like your regular commitment to yourself with journaling, with getting to the gym and moving your body in physical space, and with keeping quality coaching questions exciting and inviting potential for you and those you care about in your life. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to just quickly take a look at the thread. And all right. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. And if you haven't yet clicked to subscribe on our YouTube channel, these videos do come out. You can share these freely there. And of course, invite your friends, those you really respect, to enter into this community. We don't want the largest community of all time, but we do want a very high quality community of people who care about constant and never-ending improvement, who care about coaching, and who care about conscious leadership for themselves. Thank you so much. Take care.